mouse away, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? The people that are promoting a Pollyanna view of the world are actively in denial and dismissive of the very real manifestations that are around us. And denial is found in a number of different ways in various shades and degrees, so it's a huge component of a lot of different entities. And for instance, we find that, there's many different sides of the global warming debate. Many of those involve some form of active denial or dismissal of various key kinds of evidence and so on. And our data sets are suggesting that a lot of that is going to fall away as various different physical events and sociological upheavals occur over the course of summer, to the point that the manifestations pretty much put the kibosh on the idea that you can deny catastrophic climate change or the crash of the dollar. If the dollar's lying there flopping around like a fish, well, it's pretty much in your face that all of a sudden you've got to pay $25 for a gallon of gas. Your dollar isn't worth much. And those kinds of undeniability are all clustering together into this larger component, which is pretty much a developed world, if you will, or intercommunications connected world paradigm shift.
Do you think the Internet is going to survive all of this?
That's a real good question. We don't have anything in our data to suggest that it's going to be shut down permanently. There's a whole lot of questions about that, so it naturally arises in our data. But we don't have any definitive answer. I don't know that it's going to survive the potential crash of the modern communication system. In other words, there's stressors that are physical, in the sense of electricity generation that could be disrupted from wildfires causing nuke plants to be shut down, which puts a strain on the system, breaking SCADA systems, which in turn break internet systems at key telco junctions.
The reason I mention this is I am seeing the world, I'm seeing the human beings that are living upon planet Earth uniting in a way that we have never united before. I can remember when Ron Paul was running, and we had all of these groups in Europe, that were saying, we're pulling for you, America, we're pulling for you.
Right.
And it was just the most incredible thing to see the world joining against us. But then the mesmerizer-in-chief went over there and mesmerized everyone. Speaking of the mesmerizer...
I don't see it that way, really.
You really don't? How do you see it?
I would see it... I would extract the personality out of it. I would say that, that in this sense, Obama is riding a wave the way that a surfer does. But a surfer does not create the wave. He's merely astute enough to be at the right place at the right time to maneuver the surfboard, and skilled enough to be able to ride that existing wave. So the change wave was there. The Bush years were brought in by an emotional set of circumstances that extend back 30, 40 years, but they were part of a wave that was due to die anyway, and they were merely the last manifestation of it. If you look at, like, the great Chinese literature and stuff, they point to the end, or to the conclusion that absolutism does not exist, in any attempt to bring yourself to an absolutist state, such as, Republican Uber alles forever, instantly means you're at the crux of that particular state disappearing. Because, in the formation of the I Ching and the flow of time and everything, seasons change, conditions change. Now, in this case, there are emotional waves that are certainly out there in the sense of a psycho-historical or social emotional summation, all of us getting together because we're desperate for change. Now, curiously, of course, there are planetary alignments that seem to suggest the same thing. I am not suggesting that we're under the control of the planets any more than ants are under the control of the sunlight or anything along those lines. However, it is curious that there's this large synchronization, and someone that was astute enough, that was skilled enough, could certainly read in the various trends and put themselves in the appropriate position.
Now, you were mentioning that our entire solar system, I don't know whether you put it out to the entire universe, but we're almost like a balloon getting larger, and is it the heat that is making us larger, or is this expanding, expansion causing our solar system to heat up?
Our solar system is experiencing changes that are manifesting in the form of oddities on all the planets. We know that some of the planets are manifesting in the form of greater internal heat, which may be from can be put down to a intrusion in the gravitational process. Now, gravity is kind of this weird thing, and it actually is electromagnetic and helical and relates to how the torus spins and these containment vessel shapes called tokamaks. But basically what's going on in our estimation is that the magnetic rim that runs around the Milky Way galaxy, which the Mayans had identified as being 20 years wide in terms of our passage of our solar system, this magnetic rim, we drop down below it, and then we amble up across it again, and then we drop down below it again. And these cycles take about 18,000 years across, 18,700, I believe. In any event, while there's no astrological alignment of significance on December 21, 2012, it is nonetheless true that that is the midpoint marker in our journey in this 20-year band of passing through this magnetic rim on the Milky Way galaxy. Now, that, in my estimation, and from our data, and from a lot of work being done with the Russians, seems to suggest there seems to be the cause for what we're now putting down to global warming. And the global warming impact of this magnetic squeeze is also happening on Mercury, Mars, Venus, etc. Even Jupiter and all the outer planets are experiencing it.
Wow, I can't believe how quickly this hour is going. This isn't the Hunab Ku you're talking about, is it?
The Hunab Ku is actually a point in space, and it's defined by the Mayans as the unimaginable consciousness at the middle of the galaxy. And that is the center of what we're passing through, correct?
Okay. We are talking with Clif High. He is the creator of Half Past Human. Go to halfpasthuman.com. We will be right back after these brief messages. This is Rumor Mill News on the Micro Effects Radio Network. You're listening to Rumor Mill News Radio. My name's Raylan Allen, and I'm talking with Clif High from Half Past Human, and we were talking about something causing the planets in our solar system to heat up, something that's emanating from the center, what the Mayans referred to as the Hunab Ku. What time frame is this taking place in?
Well, it's really curious. Everybody gets all upset about exact dates and times and so forth. But we have to understand our solar system is kind of wide if you consider the actual far orbits and so on. So we've been involved in the process for a number of years as the various outer planets got there ahead of us, so to speak, because we're in the interplanetary core. So the whole process actually, we could say, was pretty much well delineated in 1940 and will be pretty much done somewhere around 2031, 2032. But the midpoint of the process, which just happens to coincide with the end of the long count, the Mayan long count, actually does appear to exist slightly after the December 21st beginning of the solstice in the year 2012. That will be the point at which, from our view, the maximum amount of magnetic pressure is being exerted on our solar system as a whole from outside of the solar system. And then from there on, we'll start gradually moving away from it. So we've been gradually moving into a point of maximum magnetic squeeze, and then we'll gradually move out of it as we cross this particular ecliptic alignment within the Milky Way itself. And at the point that we get to that middle point on that particular day is the projected alignment with what the Mayans called the Hunab Ku, which is the dark rift off to the side of the middle of the Milky Way.
Now, I've got questions about the Hunab Ku and crop circles, but I'm going to save those for a little bit later.
Sure.
We've got paradigm shift that you say is starting this...
Already underway.
It's already underway. Okay. So we've got a radical paradigm shift worldwide.
That's going to be switching to the population, so it'll take a while. Not everybody's going to get instantly enlightened, if you will.
Okay. Now, 2012, we've got it coming up, and what is humanity? What do we evolve as? How do we come out on the other side? I mean, I've heard, total devastation. I've heard different realities from time You know, in other words, we're splitting off into, two dimensions. Some people go one way, some people go another. I've even heard that we're going to evolve into a 12-strand DNA. Is there anything that you have seen that is even remotely similar to some of these predictions that are on the Internet?
No. And mostly we like to, because I'm self-educated and have been through the school of really, really, really hard knocks, I don't take anybody's theory at face value, and I like saying to myself, well, I'm really ignorant, so I'd better not believe them. I'd better go out and investigate myself. And so I've studied a lot of subjects, and it helps to know that a while back I invented this software that allows me to read up to 2,000 words per minute from computer screens.
I know, and you that's for sale, is that correct?
Sure, yeah, anybody can buy it. But in most people it's probably not very useful for, because it itself is a huge paradigm shift. And we don't support it per se, in the sense that the software is there. If you can use it, fine. If you can't, we'll give you a refund, because we just don't have the time to deal with answering questions about how to make it go and this kind of thing. A lot of programmers love it because they write macros that suck text out of other programs and run it through vortex form, and it's great for checking large volumes of code because the errors just jump right out at you.
Well,
but anyway,
that sounds like something that our team over at Rumor Mill needs.
Oh, well, I'll send you a copy. Not a problem. You can check it out. If you like it, you can pay me later. It's not a big deal.
Oh,
anyway,
that'd be great.
But I read a lot, and so I've checked out a lot of stuff, and here's basically the factual lay of the land. If one looks to the American continent, the prophetic things relating to the end of the Mayan long count relate to a series of predictions that were set down by a Spanish priest in the 1600s, and were stated as drought, great infertility, which also includes plants, animals, and insects, and 5 days of no sun. But you have to be very careful, because now we're into the linguistics of things again. In this particular projection that everybody is basing their Mayan prophecies on, the 5 days of no sun, the interpretation can vary widely, because it may be that one person is going to see that as a 5-day eclipse of the sun. Another person, including myself, looking at the underlying glyphs that were used to translate that particular set into words, looked at it as a 5 days of magnetic anomaly. 5 days of perhaps no magnetism radiating from the sun, or too much, although I think it's probably the no magnetism given the current state of affairs. We actually myself and a number of other people, have been following some of the Russian work and corresponding with the Russians and a couple of the astrophysicists at the Polish institutes that are involved in this. And there seems to be a small collective consensus emerging that we're in like a magnetic pressure bubble. And that pressure bubble is pushing down on things and collapsing our magnetosphere, collapsing the heliosphere and the heliopause, which are around our solar system as a whole, as well as affecting things like the giant storms on the outer planets that are there for hundreds of years, scrunching them down under magnetic pressure. Well, this magnetic pressure also accounts for the increased heating, because magnetism is in essence, at this scale, energy from the outside, which our data has shown for years, by the way, been forecasting under the term of unknown energies from space. Now, let me jump way back, but before I'll finish the thought. At the point of maximum magnetism, it might be